In this chapter, we're going to look at two ways of approaching the creation of an image. One would be graphic, responding to design elements, or two, creating an emotional response. We'll start in this movie by talking about the graphic approach. In these examples of a graphic approach, you are first drawn in by the elements of design, which may lead you to an emotional response. We react to certain specific elements which transfer to our senses. They are color, line, shape, negative space, texture, and light. So let's take a look at these. Let's talk about color first. So in this example, you can see the strawberries, which are red, draw you in because of the overall color palette that I'm using in this photograph. So the red draws the attention. In this photograph of the salmon contrasting against the white plate draws you in. So these are really good examples of how the use of color can work for you. Let's talk about the next element, line. If we look at the line that the plate creates, it's very strong and it draws you in and keeps your attention into the salmon. The same thing with the plate up here, where the plate draws a line and you get the contrast between the white and the black. Over on this example, if we look at the line, we're seeing how the white chocolates pop out against the dark background because the line is accentuating that difference in contrast. The next one that we'll talk about is negative space. So in this example of negative space, you can see that the black against the white creates this triangle in these corners, and that contains us, that keeps us interested in what the subject matter is. So with this photograph, let's talk a little bit about how the texture works. So the texture of the cereal contrasts the texture of the background and keeps your interests. When we think about light in all of these, the light doesn't overpower the subject. And that's one of the things that we want to pay close attention to, is that the light doesn't become the subject, that food remains the subject. So the response to the graphical design elements can then lead to an emotional response. So it doesn't negate an emotional response, it's just a tool to point us in the right direction and one possible way of shooting your food photos.